And a very good morning to you. Thanks for spending part of your Sunday morning with us. Pittsburgh Steelers legendary Hall of Fame Super Bowl winning head coach Chuck Noll died in June of 2014 at the age of 82. Noll, a former football player himself, battled Alzheimer's, and many wonder what role repeated blows to the head from football might have played in the development of that disease. Now a team of researchers from Carnegie Mellon University and the University of Pittsburgh are ready to do whatever it takes to find answers to what causes Alzheimer's and how to cure it. The Chuck Noll Foundation for Brain Injury Research recently announced its inaugural research grants for that purpose. This morning, we're so happy to welcome two special guests to this program. Popular running back Merril Hoge, who played for Chuck Noll from 1987 to 1991, knows plenty about overcoming great adversity himself, including stage 2 non-Hodgkin lymphoma. He's a member of the board of the Chuck Noll Foundation and calls Noll the greatest man he ever met. Dr. Pulkit Grover is an assistant professor of electrical and computer engineering at the Center for Neural Basis of Cognition at Carnegie Mellon University. He's a research grant recipient from the foundation. Gentlemen, thank you for the great work you're doing, and welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. Merril, let me start with you. You are on the board of this Chuck Noll Foundation, who, by the way, I echo your thoughts. I had the pleasure of serving with him on a different board, and what a great gentleman, an absolutely total gentleman. Tell us a little bit about your commitment to this issue.
Well, you know, John, first and foremost, sports and football is safer than it has ever been, and largely due to people, the board like this, doctors like this, people who want to advance protocols, techniques and how we play, equipment, treatment and therapy. You know, all of those things have advanced significantly from when I played. I'm a parent too. My son's a quarterback at BYU, so I went through this whole process. But we didn't have a protocol established even when my son started playing. I just did that as a coach, and something that had happened to me. Well, in today's environment, if you're a parent, if your kids want to play and be active in sports, which we encourage that because there's so many great values, you should be as excited as ever because the environment today is much safer because of the protocols, because of the treatment, the instruction and the equipment, and these new technologies that we're coming up with each and every day.
And yet we still have plenty of concussions. My two kids, who are 20-somethings, both have had concussions over the years, and you know, and you yourself really were a victim of a particular incident that occurred to you, not with the Steelers, I think it was with the Bears.
With the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about it if you don't mind sharing your story.
Well, I think what happened to me is important and interesting in 1994 of where we were. There was really no protocol for head trauma. Even though the Steelers were doing cognitive testing, they're the first organization in any type of sport to be doing it. It was voluntary, but I wasn't in Pittsburgh when it happened. It was in Chicago where they didn't have the head trauma protocol. So when I was concussed on a Monday night game, I never even saw a neurological doctor. I actually got cleared over the phone some 5 days later by a family practitioner after he asked me how I felt. So now it just tells you how ignorant. I know it sounds right now.
It sounds unbelievable that a doctor would clear you to play again after you've had a concussion without ever examining you.
Now we're in 1994, remember.
That wouldn't happen today.
Absolutely, and that's why sports are much better and safer today, because those things don't happen. We want to keep giving information to families and parents and coaches to make sure we do the proper care before they return to play.
And it's thanks to people like Dr. Grover who are doing research in this area and are helping us to understand more about how we can both avoid and frankly prevent the kinds of long-term damage. So, Dr. Grover, tell us about, you are the recipient of these first awards from the Chuck Noll Foundation. What is it that you're doing? Particularly, I thought it was interesting, at engineering at CMU?
Right, so thanks for having us. I am an electrical engineer at CMU, working with neuroscientists at CMU and clinicians at University of Pittsburgh who are in the critical care medicine unit. So that's where a brain injury patient first arrives. Right. And I think the behavioral tests that people do undergo now, they do reveal a lot about whether a brain injury is worsening. But one of the main difficulties that we have today is that you can't actually predict with any reasonable accuracy whether a patient is going to recover from an injury that has happened, or they are going to have secondary injuries, which make the brain injury worsen over time. And that results in cognitive decline, that results in behavioral issues, that results in return to work, that results in $100 billion of loss every year to the United States. So it's a severe issue of being able to estimate and assess whether a person is going to get worse after an initial injury or is going to get better.
Is that where your research is focused then?
That's correct. So one of the things that we have been examining for the past 4 years, and increasingly so now, is how do you detect this, how do you make this assessment non-invasively?
Right.
So without actually putting electrodes on the surface of the brain or doing craniotomies in order to enable such kind of monitoring to be done. So this is an extremely important problem because we have 1.5 million concussions every year in the United States, and not everybody will have electrodes placed on the brain surface.
Well, I'm glad you're doing this work. I was reading a little bit about it. It's way too complicated for me to understand, but I'm glad you're focused on this. And this is just one of a number of programs that you've, as a board member, have awarded grants to. Is that right, Merril?
Absolutely. It's not the only one, and we would want to continue to be, really have a broad spectrum of it, and to kind of put some, some clarity and some simplicity to it, so that because it can be convoluted and it can sound overwhelming. At one point, for some 90 years of playing sports, we did nothing for head trauma. We did zero. There was no treatment, no protocol, nothing. We have treatments and protocols today that are outstanding and amazing. And I'll give you a great example. My son just went through something very similar to what happened to me in my career. 2 concussions within a 3-week period.
Just playing football at Brigham Young?
Yes, so he's a quarterback at BYU. We play Wisconsin, bye week, then we play Utah State. He has concussion in both games. Now, because of the symptoms that existed, I take him to UPMC up here and see Mickey Collins. They identified the area of his vulnerability to what doctors talk about. If we can identify some vulnerabilities, we can treat that vulnerability. Well, Dr. Collins comes to me, he said, I think this has been going on a long time. Well, then I remember 2 years ago he slipped in the shower and hit his head. So it wasn't even in a football environment, and that had really never been treated right. And he doesn't have some type of contact for 2 years later. But with a cognitive plan and a cardiovascular plan, in 10 days, Bo had the clarity to him that I hadn't seen in 2 years.
Wow. Wow.
And he plays now, and he walks out on a football field. People will go, wow, you had 2 concussions, He's like, yeah, and he goes, and I ain't worried about it at all.
That's great.
It doesn't concern me.
Great that he can say it. We've got about 15 seconds. Pulkit, I'm going to give you the last word. Are you optimistic that we can get a handle on all of this?
Yes, but it will require a lot of sciences to come together, clinical sciences, engineering, neuroscience. And it is an extremely difficult problem. It's the most complex organ in our body. It's the most complex computational system that exists. And understanding it and understanding repercussions of any injury is going to take a lot of effort. And I'm really, really glad that Chuck Noll Foundation, being a football-oriented foundation, is really taking a lead in this initiative.
Well, it's going to have benefits for all of us, regardless of whether we slip in the shower or play football. So thank you, gentlemen, very much for the work you're doing. It's really appreciated.
Thank you.
And we'll have you back again to tell us the success that you've accomplished. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
When the Sunday Business Page continues, the first of a 2-part series of interviews on the economic future of Beaver County, part of KDK TV's Eye on Community initiative. Chamber of Commerce President and Executive Director Jack Manning and Rebecca Matsko.